The Impact in Sustainability is a collective group of passionate people all over the world with the agenda to make impact in various SDG goals, such as peace building, capacity building, advocacy, gender issues, and every other relevant issues to humanity. You are once again welcome to the program, and I appreciate you for your commitment and your time and all the support you have been giving us so far. Today, we are going to introduce the speakers we are having for today's program, and we have no other person than Mr. Omojefe Kennedy Orezime. He's a social and a digital entrepreneur focused on environmental issues, growth, and through affecting individuals' life with the knowledge and skills needed to function in various areas of life. We also have Nasifat Amadu, is the Program Director of Center for Peace and Environmental Justice in Abuja. We have Mr. Victor Park, is an author and a developer, a researcher in Nigeria. And we have our last speaker, Faith Fidelis. She is the CEO of Fidelis Foundation. Once again, thank you all, both our international participants and those in Nigeria, for being with us. We sincerely appreciate, and we therefore welcome on the floor Mr. Orezi Kennedy, who is our first speaker this evening. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome, sir.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good to have you all here. So
Good
today,
evening.
we'll be talking about the gender-based violence briefly and the necessary reasons we have to stand with her, why we should all stand with her. So gender-based violence today in our society is a very common problem that has been plaguing us. It has been known and referred to as the shadow pandemic. Since the rise of the COVID-19, a lot of cases have increased, and a lot of women have suffered and report cases of gender-based violence in their environment, in their communities. It is worthy to note that 1 in every 3 women in their lifetime experience gender-based violence. This is one of the reasons, that's an alarming rate. And that is one of the reasons why such events are very important, to understand why we must all come together and stand for gender-based violence. Now, gender-based violence is an infringement on human rights. Well, those who commit violence against women and girls actually infringe on their rights and affects them in many ways, both psychologically, mentally, and otherwise. So we as individuals need to come together and say, what can we do to end gender-based violence? So why must we all eliminate gender-based violence in our community? So, like I said, it's one of the most widespread, devastating human rights violation today, and it remains largely unreported because of the impunity, silence, stigma, and shame that surrounds the event. A lot of gender-based violence cases go unreported, and because of some people think they might be stigmatized if they speak about it, or they think about impunity that's from the perpetrators when nothing is being done to them. I say when you allow such things to continue to go on in a society unquestioned, they go on for long and it becomes a problem, which is now like a pandemic in our society. In general, gender-based violence manifests themselves in both physical, sexual, or psychological form. All this encompasses the intimate personal violence, talking about battering, psychological abuse, or marital rape. Then we'll talk about also sexual violence and harassment, the rape, forced sexual assault, unwanted sexual advances, children's sexual abuse, forced marriages, and we now talk about human trafficking also, slavery and sexual exploitation. 71% of all women, of all human trafficking in the world are against women and girls. Then another of these conditions of this violence experience is about female genital mutilation. Still in Africa, we have a lot of people still practicing female genital mutilation. Even where I live, the state, Cross River State, I'm currently based now, in northern parts, you can see some people still practicing female genital mutilation because they have not fully understand the risks behind it. All these are part of the gender-based violence. Also in Calabar, northern Cross River, a lot of people still practice what they call child marriage. They give their child and they call like money woman, give their child in exchange for debt payments. All these are infringement of basic human rights. So to further clarify, the Declaration of the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls issued by the UN General Assembly in 1993 defined violence against women as an act of gender-based violence that results in or likely the result of physical, sexual, or psychological harm of suffering to women, which include threats, act of coercion, depriving from one's rights, or private, which can occur both in public or in private spaces. Now, these conditions actually cause various psychological abuse for both their psychological, sexual, and reproductive health consequences when they are abused sexually, even most of the time at early stage in life or during when they are growing up. For example, early set education disadvantage. Children who are abused as a young girl, maybe being raped, may find it very hard coping during having obstacles in schooling, at primary schools. Some of them actually get pregnant. Some of them are blamed and come down to it with mental health problem. And some of them are unable to further their education, which translates into many other disadvantages that occupies a woman and actually limits opportunity in the labor market. So why gender-based violence can happen to anyone and anywhere, so women and girls are particularly vulnerable. For instance, young girls and older women. Women identify as maybe lesbian, transgender, and different people are vulnerable to sexual-based violence, and a lot of people living today, it's even more dangerous because of the kind maybe HIV and disabilities. Violence against women continue to be an obstacle for equality. So coming together to stand for the infringement of human rights, because why do we all need to make sure that these things must stop in our community because of the role, the pivotal role that women play in our economy. In the SDG Goal 5, talking about gender equality, actually tries to promote the way we view women in our communities, so that if you can give them equal rights and equal opportunity, you can now view them equally and know that they are actually equal to human, so that a lot of people do not actually take advantage of them to want to oppress them or push them into various circumstances, uncomfortable circumstances. We actually have to bring in everybody to the table, because everyone is involved in what happens in our community. Because the men folks, bringing them to the table of gender-based violence, because most of the people that perpetrate the gender-based violence against women are the men folks, because some of them are not well educated, they are not well trained, and they have not gotten the psychology and the effects on what is gender-based violence and the kind of harm they are causing, and how do they view women. Some of them do not take them as their equals. So those things actually cause the societal gap in the upbringing of male and female child. So those societal gaps has further led to these cases occurring more and more often. We see in this COVID-19 period during the lockdown that more people came down with cases of sexual violence. And the most funny thing is that where they happen are places where they are least expected to happen. Now, the most people that commit sexual violence or rape against girls are at home. So they are mostly domestic, because people that are very close to the children or to the women are the ones committing these batteries. That is why there's need to educate them and bring all men to the table, because we believe in a situation, they came up with the He for She program. When men are standing up for each other, for the women in their community or in their life, you see that there's more change, because a man can actually talk to a man and try to change his mentality, so that those that actually see women in a certain way will understand that women are not just tools. They are actually people, and they actually have rights in the community, and they should be treated with all forms of respect and all forms of dignity, so that they can actually have the opportunity to rise up to bigger places in the community and in the society, and they'll be able to perform their functions and their role effectively for community and societal development. So these are the few points I have to drop today on gender-based violence, and I hope that is okay. So thank you very much for having me. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. We sincerely appreciate. We also have on the floor our second speaker for today, Madam Nasifat Amadu. She is a staff of Center for Peace and Environmental Justice in Abuja, and she's the program director of the center. She's also my boss. I welcome you, Ma, to the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Ovuju. Good evening, everyone. I would like to say a huge congratulations to the facilitators of this program. This is something that has been very important for me personally, and also in official capacity, because of the kind of interventions that I've been particularly involved in the last 1 year plus. So since 1981, the UN has enacted a celebration for the International Day for observing the activism for elimination of violence against women. And I believe that is the reason, that's the fallout reason for us having this discussion this evening. So I'm meaning to talk about the socioeconomic impact, of the COVID-19 as it affects women and girls. So like the last speaker said, since the COVID-19 breakout in Nigeria, I think that was early March, we had the lockdown where everybody had to stay at home and everybody had to, keep off the streets and, stay off workplaces. You would have heard that during that period, we had a lot of reported cases for domestic violence. We had a lot of reporting that, issues of sexual and gender-based violence, were reported a lot. And during this period, it would also show you that the issues that we get to hear about women being abused, because a lot of times when you talk about gender-based violence, people tell you, oh, what about the men? The men are also abused, who's going to speak for them? But you would see that with the reported cases over time, although we have this culture of silence with the men, it's still on the rise with women. We still have more women who are affected. We still have more women who are actually at risk of violence. And this COVID-19 has really brought that to light, because we see that there are adverse consequences on the local economy, health systems, as well as traditional livelihoods, food security, and even maternal well-being. um, things got hard, especially for the most vulnerable groups, which include women and children. According to a UN report, there was a record of about 42% job loss. So that period, people, a lot of people were leaving. A lot of people, including women, of course, and most in I think in federal civil service, we heard that a lot of women were given time out. They were given time out to, okay, go and take care of the home, and then those who were allowed to come to the offices were men, and these are the kind of issues that we get to see all the time, because it's easier to always explain why it's preferred for men to, be at work, or it's preferred for men to have an education over women. And we are hoping that as time goes on, we'll be able to correct these views, because it's actually affecting women who are breadwinners. Also, without an income, women are unable to feed their children, they are unable to renew rent, they are, for their homes, and they're even unable to pay utility bills as low as electricity. So that's for those who are actually leaning on their sources of income for them to be able to fend for themselves and their families. We also know that they gave out palliatives. The government gave out palliatives, but how are these palliatives given out? I was lucky to hear of the division of palliatives that went on in Delta State through my colleague in Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, where they gave out palliatives through the CACOVID program, and it was very peaceful, but in other states it wasn't so as peaceful. And then we got to hear that pockets of people were able to get these palliatives, and a lot of those who actually needed it, a lot of those who were actually affected, were not able to get it. And then of course we saw during the NSAS protest at the end of it, where we discovered houses that were packed with palliatives that were meant for the people. And at the end of the day, if you look at those who are most affected, again, it comes down to women and girls. It comes down to the women and girls. There are data, specific data that can back this up. I believe that the most widely experienced shocks in the country actually that is being experienced right now is also with the increase in prices of both major food items consumed by Nigerians, and this has affected at least 90% of the population. And when we're talking about those who get the brunt of this, of course, permit me to say again, it's the women and children. And at the end of the day, I was reading an article this morning that said that the dollar is now 508. Sorry, the dollar is now 508 naira. That's the exchange rate currently. And a few days back, it was 480 something. So we can imagine that, as these things, as the economy gets worse, or as the prices, or as, let's just say the economy, because right now we're dealing with inflation, which of course has already brought about a recession. Nigeria is we're experiencing our second recession in 5 years. And these are things that at the end of the day, the woman and child, the woman and the children are the ones who are most affected. So even if they're relying on the man of the head of the house to be able to provide for them, if he cannot get the daily worth, or if due to increase in prices, inflation, recession, he's unable to get the things that he would get normally, at the end of the day, the family would suffer. And who's the family? Who are the people that get the brunt? Women and children. And if it's now the woman that is the one that is the head of the house, it's even the worst case scenario. And I'm hoping that as we celebrate the elimination of violence against women and girls, we begin to look at policies that affect women particularly, especially in Nigeria. We begin to also revisit them and review them, so that responses that can be targeted at interventions that would help women are looked upon, and we will be able to move on from this phase where we are always the ones receiving at the receiving end of whatever negativity that comes up. Recently, I was privileged to be part of a team that launched they launched a program. So the team is actually the first African First Ladies Peace Mission. So they launched a movement in celebration of the 16 days of activism, which is supposed to have started from the 25th and would end on the 10th of December. So the 16 days of activism is basically to shed more light on the stories of women and girls who are actually at the receiving end of different violent acts. So when we talk about violent acts, these are things that most people see as normal because it's cultural. Some of these include FGM, female genital mutilation. At birth, the sexual organ of the female is, cut out. In some parts of Nigeria, till date, yes, till date, it might shock you to know that till date this still happens. And I also heard recently through a UK contact that women in some parts of Nigeria are still forced to sleep with the dead bodies of their husbands, just to prove their innocence, at the cost of his death. And these are things that should not happen. These are things that are not normal. These are things you not hear of a man being locked up with the dead body of the wife, or a man being the sexual organ is being cut off or whatever because he's a man. And there are also issues of physical abuse, and at most time the culture is silence. Oh, don't speak, men are like that, and these are things that we are hoping that with time, when people continue to speak out, when people continue to shed more light on the not just the causes now, but also the repercussions of this, because they say when you train a woman, you train the world, because the more educated a woman is, the more she'll be able to pass this knowledge to her children. And when she's able to do that, you find that the society at large is a better place. So, but if they are being the receiving end of violence, you could mute, maybe. I don't know where that is coming from. It's okay. I think it's gone now. Yeah, so if women continue to be at the receiving end of violent acts, it would affect mental health, it would affect their productivity levels, and this would in turn affect the GDP of the country. And like I said earlier on, it's time that we need to begin to look at how we can revisit the policies that speak to women empowerment. We can revisit policies that actually help women to be better, better people who are aiding the productivity of the country, so that at the end of the day, if women are winning, the country is winning. If the country is winning, the world is winning. That's basically the message that the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is speaking to. And as time goes on, I'm sure if you link up with Ovujo, we can send information about how the activities are going on across from the FCT, because that's where I am based at. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers of this program. This is a very well thought out program, and it is very well timed as well, because like the topic, COVID-19 has brought a lot. In fact, it didn't bring, it's just bringing to light the things that were hidden before, the things that we were trying to put behind us and focus on other things. COVID-19 brought it out for us. The disparity between the rich and the poor in accessing healthcare, all of that were heightened or highlighted more during this period, and so it's actually important that programs like this actually continue to be heard or continue to be had, so that we can have conversations and talk about these things, and then from these conversations move on to recommendations that can help us leave better outcomes for everybody who is involved, whether male or female. The other speaker was talking about the He for She program. I do agree that a lot of times we're targeting the woman, talking about the woman, empower the woman. But if you do not carry the male folk you know, hand in hand, most times they look at it as a threat. You know, you're empowering the woman. She's going to come home and she's going to be shouting at me. She's going to be wanting to be the head of the house. She wants to be the man because she's empowered, because she's earning money. You know, but when they are taught, you know, that when you empower the woman, you're actually empowering yourself, because it reduces the load of managing the home from the man. When they also learn that when they empower a woman, it's not teaching her to be disrespectful. It also helps the man to be able to be an active campaigner for the He for She program. So once again, thank you for indulging me and inviting me to be part of this wonderful program. And I hope we have a successful deliberations. Over to you now, Miss Obudo. I don't know if there are questions particularly for me or something like that.
Thank you so much, Madam Nasifat. I sincerely appreciate. And we are going on to our next speaker now, Mr. Victor Park. Mr. Victor Park. Okay, he's not on ground now. While we await him, let's call Madam Faith Fidelis. Madam Faith Fidelis, she's the CEO of Fidelis Foundation, an NGO whose thematic focus is on advocacy and development. Thank you very much, ma'am. We can't hear you, ma. Faith, Madam Faith, we can't hear you, ma. We can't hear you, ma. Kindly unmute yourself, ma.
I'm not muted. Thank you.
Okay, go on, ma. We can hear you clearly now.
Okay. Thank you so much. I feel really privileged being in your midst this evening amongst wonderful people. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. I'm meant to be talking about violence against the girl child, rape particularly, and specifically talking about recommendations. So yeah, honestly, if impunity continues to exist, then justice for the girl child or women would become evasive. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, everyone?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
We can hear you.
Thank you. So unless the society is architected in such a way that the people know, that the people understand that justice is inescapable, there will always be perpetrators of evil. Hence, architecture is what must be given attention. Do we agree?
Hello, ma. Please adjust your camera so we can see your full face.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So, like I said, that there is much architectural restructuring that has to be done for things to be proper, like for us to achieve justice, real justice in the cause against violation of women and girls the world over, particularly in Nigeria, as our own case applies. I'll come up with some recommendations. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, actually, talking about recommendations. So first of all, I'll recommend that there be a national DNA database. It is needed for tracing and matching evidences with perpetrators. It is needed. Nigeria does not really have that. So after telling the girl child to bring this, and after all the checkups, you do not have a database. You don't know what belongs to who. You don't know. So we need that database, and we need lights. When we begin to check, when we begin to dissect some of the causes of rape, not causes exactly, but if we begin to check some of the loopholes why perpetrators continue to have hands to to perpetrate these evils, we'll see that like darkness happens to be a part of it. I am not saying it's a cause, because particularly to me and what I preach to people, the only cause of rape is the rapist. Okay, so now, but if there are other factors, underlying factors like dark streets and so on, so I would recommend that we light up streets. Light and darkness does not go together. Somebody will not very easily want to harm you in a lighted up street. Let me put it that way. So I recommend that we light up streets, always put CCTV surveillance cameras. Yeah, we need that so we can always come back to check, yes, what exactly happened. This claim, because sometimes verifying through oral confessions has really become a problem, that people are unable to fully express themselves or claim completely that this really happened, I was truly raped. This issue of evidence and proof has become a problem. That's why many rapists evade arrest, evade justice, and all of that. So we need CCTV. At least the CCTV would not lie. You agree with me, right? Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, Ma. Go on.
All right. So I would also suggest that law enforcement agencies should be adequately trained, should be incentivized, and they should also be equipped to investigate this crime. Okay? Some of them, they are used to blame games. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. That's analog pattern used by some members of the armed forces, some members of the police force, whatever it is. When you go to the station to report cases of violence, you hear them coming with their analog and archaic mentality, saying something like, why you enter in house? Who asked you to walk alone on the street? And all such things. So they need to be properly trained. They need to be properly trained and properly equipped to handle such cases. Okay, I don't want to say you would agree with me, but honestly, when you man up and take some cases to the station to report, you get discouraged by how this police and the rest, how they handle your issue. So I think that one other way we can really get justice for victims and curtail this issue of rape and the rest is by training adequately and well equipping our police force, particularly or majorly, because they are really the people that we take such cases to. So apart from that, I would also suggest that the judiciary be reformed. We need a reformation of the judiciary, not just in this case, in almost everything in Nigeria, we all know. But on this case particularly, yes, the judiciary has to be reformed. They have to be reformed to such a way that they will efficiently fast track the unbiased dispensation of justice where violent crime is concerned. We all know that delay is denial, delay is brother to denial of justice, if I even may put it that way. So when there are cases of rape, we don't need to come back 2 months later, 3 months later, 4 months later. All these things gives way for denial and all the rest. These are things that strengthen the hands of perpetrators. That's the hand exactly we want to weaken. So we need the judiciary to step up their game. Also, too, the stringent stance of the law. I'm talking about this and I'm laying emphasis on it, that the stringent stance of the law in proving rape cases should be made more realistic. It should be made more realistic. It's too stringent. It's too uptight. That assailants often get away. It should be reviewed. Show us this, show us that. Some of those things are not even possible with that kind of situation and imbalance, Come on, it's not just possible. So they need to review the stance of the law. Come with this, yes. Well, in fact, you can even take a rape case, an obvious rape case, to the court of law and end up losing your case. So we need that the stringent stance of the law be reviewed on this matter. Am I communicating, please? Hello. All right, I'll proceed. All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. So also, I'll talk about the media. The media should understand and play its role in shaping culture. The administrators of new media platforms should be mindful of their no, should I say, of their responsibility to guide conversation towards wholesome ideals, you know. The thing sometimes what we see on the media, perhaps influencers and so on, are discouraging. Someone comes up with her truth or with his truth, let me even put it that way, and the person is discouraged. No, the person is, even before the court has proven that person guilty or not, or actually raped or not, people who have, out of their own traditional bias or cultural bias, has begun to dismiss the person. I would have loved to make reference to the case of what's that her name, Timi Dakolo's wife, but I am not stating, I am not a judge, but we all know how that issue went. The media was already being the judge, criticizing A, dismissing B, and so on and so forth. So the media should be careful what they put out to the people, because whatever goes out from these influencers happens to, you know, happens to find space in the hearts of some people, many people actually. So the media too has a good role, huge role to play. The media has to be very responsible about sensitive issues such as violations. You know, the media should not push issues that, should not push stories that would discourage people from coming up, should not shame people from coming up to say their truth. Also, there should be consequences, reasonable consequences, if anybody is found guilty of rape. You know, some, yeah, well, they said 14 years or something like that, but how many people have we really seen going in for that 14 years or so? You know, it is written there, but how effective? How many people has actually been, you know, you get my point, how many people has actually been taken in for it? And another recommendation I'll make is that when all these stakeholders involved in issues of rape, when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about like the police, just stakeholders, maybe the police and so on, that are involved, those people, you know, you have to contact when there are issues regarding rape. I hope you get my point. Now, when they do not play their part, I think there should be a kind of punishment or something, consequences attached to that. When you go to a station and you have not been properly attended to, or you are dismissed because perhaps the police officer is not happy about cases like that, I think you should also, there should be consequence for such police officer to have neglected that case or treated it with, you know, with kids' glove. Those consequences will make people to be uptight and not dismiss cases out of their own personal bias. I don't believe a wife can be raped by her husband. Madam, what are you saying? Please leave this place. I think there should be consequences for such, you know, you just kill a person's case like that. I think there should be consequences when stakeholders do not, you know, do what they are expected to do. Also there is this VAPP Act. I think some states have implemented it. I don't know, I think Imo State or so and so on, so it's peculiar to states. I think many other states should begin to, you know, pick it up and so on, just like that. Also, parental guidance, upbringing, sex education is very important. It is very important, and I'll recommend that our parents not only teach girls against rape, but teach boys too. Teach our boys, talk to them, tell them, just tell them things, tell them how to see and overlook. Not just girls, how to avoid rape, how to fight a rapist, how to dodge a rapist, how to sit one place, how not to greet somebody because you don't want to be raped. I think we also need to start teaching our guys. You get the point. We need to start teaching our guys how to be responsible, how you must not get it if she does not want to give it. I think we also need to train up our children in the way we want them to go. That's also it. Don't only teach your daughters, you should also teach your males and so on. So on mass sensitization, I would suggest that there is mass sensitization. I love programs like this. You know, I think we should even take it to the streets, to the common people who do not have opportunity to be on Zoom meetings. We should take it to the streets. Those common people, we should teach them that you don't throw blame games left, right, and center. You don't bring excuses that, she was not wearing black, that's why I raped her, I'm justified. she was walking alone on the street. That's why we should let them know the concept of yes and that no means no. So this sensitization, we need to emphasize on it. We need to bring down all those blocks, all those barriers, like the false myths about rape and all the excuses, all the plenty excuses that people have over time begun to accept due to cultural influences, traditional influences, societal influences, stereotypes, and the rest. We need to let them know, understand completely the fact that you took her to eatery and bought her shawarma doesn't mean if she says no to sex, you have to rape her. We need to emphasize on all these controversial aspects. Everybody knows the general aspect, but these controversial aspects that till today, even when I'm talking about it to people, maybe in my organization or wherever I go, people still stand up. You see, reasonable people that knows that rape is bad, but they will stand up and argue with you that on this particular one, she is guilty. If she's raped on this condition, this particular condition, she is guilty. I think those are the parts of the sensitization we need to touch, you know. We need to talk about that. And then the blame game culture, we need to talk about it. We need to teach people that you do not blame victims. You do not blame victims. Nobody asks to be raped. I mean, if we want to start discussing about this time will fail us, you will understand, which I know almost everyone here, if not everyone here, in fact, let me say everyone here is very woke regarding this rape issue. Like, you do not blame victims. You just do not blame victims. Nobody asked to be raped or something like that. So we need to sensitize them on that aspect. Also on the cover-up aspect, even if the rapist happens to be your husband, your beloved husband, your father, it doesn't mean you should cover up the rapist. My God, you owe the victim a bigger favor by opening up. People should learn how to open up, even the victims too. I understand the shaming and everything, but we need to speak to people. These days, thank God, people are beginning to come up, but men, if we want to calculate it, we'll understand that the figures are still very, very low. The figures are still very, very low. We need to talk to people to bolden up, enough to speak up, enough to share their stories, enough to, especially in time, not like you come back 20 years later to tell us. Even that, at that, it is still very valid. It is still very valid, but you need to let us know in time so that we'll begin to track down. And yes, one good recommendation that people probably have been overlooking is the fact that there should be a kind of, how do I explain this now? Okay, let me just come this way. If Mr. So-so-so is convicted for rape, please let his name be made open that Mr. So-so-so was convicted for rape. Let us, how do I call it, a database? Do I call it, somebody help me please, do I call it a database? Do I call it a chart or something? Make them public. We need to know their names. We need to know their faces. We need to see, so that we'll let, I think that it will go a long way when we begin to point them out that this one is a rapist. This one has been verified to be a, whether he changed or not does not concern us, but you raped, and people need to be aware of that fact. We don't hide these days on social media what we see. So even though some people have started closing the eyes of rape victims, we just see photos of the girls that were raped, pictures of the person that was. What about the person that raped the person? We want to start seeing their faces. We want their name to start flying, their addresses, not the evaded so house, and so on and so forth. So conclusively, my dearies, conclusively, there should be better rehabilitation programs for victims. You know, it's not enough to just take up their case. It's not enough to even give them justice, but how to put them back into the society as sane people. Heal their hearts, heal their spirits, okay? So we need to, maybe by counseling, discussions, if they've incurred any damage due to the issue, maybe pregnancy, something, we need to find a way to settle that too, so that they will come back into the society with less trauma than they should have had. So that's where I'll end my recommendations, people, for the sake of time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the CEO, Fidel Foundation. We appreciate your concern and your encouragement. Thank you so much. We still want to welcome on the floor Mr. Kennedy, who is a life coach and a public speaker, to give us a conclusion. Thank you, sir.
Hello, everybody.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, good evening, all. I've listened to the amazing sections from both speakers, and they've actually been very nice, and they've actually hit most of the major points to see that gender-based violence is not a child's play. It's not a thing to actually joke about. There are a lot of loopholes, but the most important point is that we have to raise awareness in these issues and bring everybody to the table, the male folks, the female folks, to all be aware and learn about what gender-based violence is. Those that are being raped, for example, speaking up for after being raped, for example, actually help and prevent other people from going through the same condition. Because if a girl is raped, for example, and she keeps it quiet and did not report it and do not bring this perpetrator to book, means that this perpetrator will go about raping other people because he believes that there's no consequences for his action. But when we report these cases and follow them up and they get justice, then those people, like the last speaker just talked, like a database of people who have read before. So when you see that, when the professor see that there's such kind of event and kind of programs that are put in place so that rape victims can be totally dealt with, and you see that once you rape somebody and your name is going to go down in history as one of the rapists, I think it's actually going to go a long way to help in curbing this menace. So most of the time, we have to actually bring the boys and the men and the women to the table so that they understand and they start bringing them up from childhood to respect a woman and understand that no means no. Like when a woman, that consent is key in cases of sexual harassment and other forms of domestic violence. We need to train our men to respect the women folks and give them equal respect and equal human rights, because they are humans. I used to say they are humans before they are female. We're all humans, and all humans have to be right to be treated fairly, to be treated with respect, and to be heard. So together, we cannot come together in the society to make sure that these things in our society continue to reduce. Now, as people continue to hear about it, and I believe the case continue to go down because a lot of people are beginning to speak up, unlike in those days we fought. But now we're calling that more should be done, and we believe more can be done. The last week I spoke about the police and the justice system. More can be done. Now, what we're putting up in place, you see that most of the work and most of the people that actually even care for the victims and go ahead to follow up cases are mostly the NGOs, which is the duty of our government, because now the NGOs are in the front line of making sure that everybody gets justice and following the case through. So what I usually advise is that for rape victims of people with gender-based violence victims, they should at least contact some of the NGOs so that they can document their story and hear it properly and report it. That justice is not going to the right channel, and there are cases where after they go and report directly to the police, free money to the family members, and this is one of the underlying causes of the family members collect money and keep quiet and tell the in the society. They'll start telling, okay, what will you get? Teams to understand is that it's not just what you gain, it's stopping a rapist. It's like stopping somebody that is going to further cause more harm to other people. So it's being that hero and standing out in that community and making sure that what happened to you do not repeat itself and do not happen to other people, because I believe these if you find out, if from research, you see that when you talk about rapists, let's say in a community, and you see that some people have been raped, you find out that actually a circle of the same people raping one and raping, or have a sister and she's being raped. How would you feel if you have a mother and she's experiencing domestic violence? How do you call all human?
Hi
Hello,
everyone.
everybody.
Sorry
Can you hear
for
me?
the transmission issue.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, sir.
Okay, sorry, the thing went off. So let me round up by talking about prevention, because most importantly, it's actually cases before they actually happen. Because when they happen, we start talking about the psychological effects, the physical effects, the mental effect that affects them in the community. So it's actually good that we actually prevent these cases. Now, how do we prevent these cases? We have to understand that because the rape cases are usually, let's say, for rape cases, they are usually domestic cases. That means the people that we don't expect, all those uncles, all those aunties that come and rape the little ones. So the little ones in our lives, in our community, need to be protected. They need to be taken away from the all those so-called uncles. Not that just because they are family members does not mean you should leave them alone with the main folks that is unknown to them. Because most of the time, educate them, make sure there's proper awareness, and make sure people. And now they teach women that if you are in such a situation, make sure you shout. You now the research shows that a lot of women during rape, during rape case, when they actually scream out, the rape victim is actually scared, and most of the time maybe go away from there than when they're trying to just scream. So they teach women how to scream out in cases of rape, and when you call for help, scream out, call for help, make sure you get somebody, no matter who the person is, do not cover it. Scream and call for help, something that in our society. We continue to raise awareness, continue to speak to the men folks, and continue to speak to various people to understand that these are all our individual rights. And I believe when we all know that, and when the justice system starts actually bringing to book and putting perpetrators into their places, we'll see changes in our communities, and we'll see changes in our environment. So that will be all for tonight. Thank you very much for having me. Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you faintly,
Okay.
sir. Mr. Kennedy.
I think the host. Yeah, I'm here. I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I've ended up. Is yours around?
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate. Thank you.
Okay.
So it's that time for the question session. If you have a question that you want to raise, you can signify by raising up your hand so we can give you a room for your question. Any question? It's time for the question session. It's either you write it on the chat box or you can raise your hand so we can call you to ask your question. Good evening, sir. You can go on by asking your question.
Uh, Good morning, good evening,
Good morning.
good night, all of you. My name is Chabilal Sumer from Nepal. I am the CSO representative of the Nepal, the youth, National Youth Federation. Uh, I'm so happy and proud on the all Nigeria team. I have participated in this the great event, activism against gender-based violence, the 16 days gender-based violence Zoom meeting, and so many issues are raised in the program, such the medias and police law of the nation are also somehow they are trying to mitigate plan of the various gender-based violence and the violence against women's and uh, discrimination against women, children. So many issues are addressed in the panel discussions, and so many speakers are collect their voice uh, strongly in the issue of the event. In Nepal, also we are celebrating the activity of 16 days violation. Uh, um, my question is to the panelist and the speaker, how types of violation is going, and what's the plan of the national government and the local governments are lead to control the gender-based violence or the violence of against women, people with disabilities, and other etc. Thank you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So our speaker was asking what is what is the plan of the government to control violence against women. So I don't know, Mr. Kennedy, can you please take on the floor? Our speaker was asking, what is the plan of the government in taking up? Our speaker was asking, what is the plan of the government to control violence against women? So, Mr. Kennedy, can you please take up the floor? Hello?
Yes.
Hello, Faith. Okay, we have another question. Let's take the next question till we are able to get Mr. Kennedy or Faith.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you, sir. The
Okay.
question of the speaker is, what is the plan of government in controlling violence against women all over the world?
So the government actually, what they are putting up in place is because of the way a lot of people are coming together to make sure that they talk about the event and call for change. So we are starting to see some changes, but it's still very slow, but I think it's something in the right direction. And we're calling for setting up of gender-based departments in various local governments. So they have to have a gender-based desk in their local government, and they have a gender-based desk in the police station now. And we are continue pushing till we get what we need, because we continue asking, and because what I learned about government maybe in Nigeria and in various parts of the world is that you actually need to keep pushing them, and the more you keep requesting, if you keep requesting from them, then they keep putting those things in place. So presently what they have a gender-based desk in different states, and they have Ministry of Women Affairs, and they have some desks specifically dedicated to responding to gender-based cases. So what we usually say is to educate people in the community to make sure that they have the numbers of those in those desks and call them to action, and make sure you call them and check on them and make sure that they're actually doing the job for which they actually placed there and for which they actually created, so that in the communities we can have this thing, because there's one thing to create the decks and there's another thing for them to be active. So it's not just creating the decks. We want to actually see change. We want to actually see the perpetration being brought to book. And also, in our last one of our other conference we had, we talked about in the police decks, and the police, they actually have a unit for gender cases, because you know when let's say for example a girl is raped and she's taken to the police station, most of the time the process before she's taken to the doctor, the screening and everything is delayed, and so it delays getting evidence and it delays justice, because when evidence is not collected properly and it's not collected on time, it means that justice is not being done. So we usually pay visits to our local police stations to make sure that they have this department. And if they don't have this department, it becomes our duty to continue calling on the government to make sure that such departments are set in place. Because if such departments are not set in place and they are not functioning, then the cases continue to happen and they're not properly reported and they're not properly documented, which is part of the reason we keep our advocacy and we keep going and we keep informing the people. So what we do in those kind of cases is we do events where we get the stakeholders. We bring people from the police, people from the justice ministry, and people from the NGO sectors, the Ministry of Women Affairs, and everybody, and put them together in one table. So we've had that kind of event in Cross River State here, and Cross River State, they actually have an active desk. So those kind of things we suggest that everybody actually start putting those kind of events and those kind of conferences in their own local government and their own private locations, their own communities. And they call the police, write a letter to the police, the Ministry of Affairs, the justice system, the Women Affairs, and bring everybody together to talk about a lasting solution to the problem. I believe when we continue doing this, we continue to see different changes, and the communities, everybody can and will be better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there any question, any other question from the house? Please, if there is, signify by raising up your hands. Is there any other question in the house? If there is, signify by raising up your hand. Okay, let's call on the next speaker, Yakusu. Patient. The floor is open for you to speak.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good evening. Good evening. I don't know. I want to thank all the speakers that have made the presentation. It was so wonderful. So my question is that what are the channels where if a case of rape is reported in Delta State, where are the channels, the offices that the cases can be reported to? So I would appreciate that the offices are listed in case we have people that have been raped that we want to refer for immediate investigation into their cases. What are the offices?
Okay. Thank you so much. One of the offices where you can actually report rape issue is FIDA. There's FIDA in Delta State, and presently we have been working with them. You can go online, you can go on Google, you see FIDA Delta State FIDA. You can report your cases to them. It is free of charge. They are a group of female lawyers. So you can always report your issues to them when it comes to gender-based violence and rape issue. You can also report your cases to the police. Fine, we know we have recent issues with the police on cases that have not been counted or cases that have not been properly aired. But We thank God for Nigeria youth. We are trying to reform the sector, and we hope that everything will get better. We also have a women affair. You can also write your issues to them. The Delta State Women Affair. Other state, I think in Nigeria, we have women affair in all over this country, in various states. So you can also report your issues to them. Thank you so much. I can still see patient raising her hands up, so I'm giving her another opportunity to speak.
It's okay from my end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's another question. We're still opening the room for questions. We're still entertaining questions. So if there's any other question, please signify by raising your hand.
So before then, can I add something?
Yeah, you can add.
Okay, so talking about reporting cases from the last thing, I would like to advise that a lot of cases, the reason why they actually do not get justice is because of delayed reporting. So actually have to put that into consideration when we want to report cases of gender-based violence. Because most of the time when you go and report, maybe a girl is raped or sexually abused or beaten or a case of batter in domestic, go and report the case. Most of the time they don't take it serious because they want to actually see the evidence. So we usually advise people that in such a condition, especially if you are going to report to the police, the first thing you to do is call the police station, call helpline center like the feeder, make sure you follow them online and get their number here. They have health care center, go to the police immediately and report with the evidences, because most of the time, let's say for a case of rape, there have been cases of scratches, there have been cases of bruises, and they'll be able to collect data and evidence. For example, you are opportunity to see a victim of rape, maybe in the street or somewhere. Do not go and with maybe a cloth, but take them the way they are. So the police station to report. Even if it's a case of beating, the woman's eye is swell up, they should carry her, let her go to the police station immediately to go and report the case with the evidences. So when you go there with the evidences, there's hardly a way where you will not get justice for those and start reducing those kind of people in the community. So thank you very much. That's just my addition.
Thank you so much for this addition. I appreciate. So right now, we want to do a little recap, but before then, I'm still encouraging everyone to send your name, your complete name, and your email to orugbo.livia@gmail.com. It's already on the chat box. You can go to your chat message. You see the email address there. So we can send in your certificates to your mail directly. Thank you so much. And in the course of our lectures, we've been able to touch everything we needed to do, and even those things we never expected we could. We have been able to touch everything pertaining the gender-based issues. I sincerely want to appreciate the IYS coordinator and the IYS coordinator in all over the state. I also want to appreciate the IYS boss. I sincerely thank you for your support for this program as well. And we are appreciating all IYS members outside Nigeria. You have been there for us all the time. We thank you so much. Also to my speakers, I appreciate you, Mr. Kennedy, for your time and your support, even with a short period of time. Thank you so much. Madam Nasifat, I appreciate you. Faith Fidelis, I appreciate you. And to all the participants, we are saying thank you from the Delta State chapter of IYS. We appreciate you. Like we said before, IYS is a voluntary organization that helps to groom people. It helps to encourage and make sure that youth are imparted in their ways, in their various ways of life. Thank you so much for being there for us. And we are calling it a very lovely night. And we ask that God will protect everyone who have been here for us today. Thank you so much. We also want everybody to on their videos so you can be online, so we can have a photo shot together. Thank you so much, everybody. Please just do us good to on your video. Come online, come on video. Thank you, everybody. Just come on video. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget also to send your full name to the email address so we can send you your certificate. So thank you. Let's take our national item to call of the day so we can. Thank you so much.
Hello, Faith. No, they're not yet. They're not yet.